Thank you. Hi, my name is Stefan Winkler. I'm talking about not Self-Brewed Beer, but Ollama today, and thank you for joining me. I'll rush through the introduction a bit more because the interesting part comes in the final slides. So Ollama, for those who don't know it, Ollama is a tool that wants to provide a Docker-like experience for running LLMs locally on your own hardware. With all the advantages that brings, you have basically more or less unlimited tokens. You're only paying for the power and the hardware, of course, if you don't have it already. Everything stays on your machine, so it's confidential, it's private. No need to worry about sending confidential information to cloud servers. You can customize your models. The solution is vendor neutral, so no matter who wins the AI race in 1 year, it's basically, you'll still be able to run the LLM locally. It's offline. You can basically be in the airplane and coding. But of course, there are disadvantages. Mostly the problem is both memory and CPU consumption. Also, local LLMs are usually quantized, which leads to a lower precision. And until yesterday, these two things were valid. No multi-model models yet, and too slow for code completion. This morning, Ollama 0.12.7 was released, and this supports actually Qwen 3 visual models, which means that you have multi-model models. So this morning, a new Ollama version came out, and we have a new we have support for multi-model models now, and also code completion. I found a model which is rather fast in code completion, which I'm showing here. But I'll skip that still in my presentation. Local models are developing very fast. If you have a look at early 2005, and nothing of this would have been possible, but now it's possible. So it's interesting what the future brings. If you want to use Ollama, you have to install it. You have to start it. Keep your eye out of the properties you need to set, and those change over time because Ollama adds new experimental features over time. Also, you can download a model, you configure it in Theia, and then one important thing is you need to set the context length, because the one that is pre-configured in Ollama is rather short, so you need to change that in the settings JSON file in Theia. I've done a bit of measurements. You see on the right-hand side, just for a bit visual impression of the speed or lack thereof. So this is GPT-OSS 20B on my hardware, which is basically a 5 years old processor. So it's not that bad for a local model right now. It is a rather simple task. It's about changing one line in some React application that uses a non-Unicode friendly regular expression. And I've done basically what Jonas has shown at the start of today. I'm doing an analysis with Architect. I'm doing a summary of the chat, and I'm doing an implementation. You can see the times here. And GPT-OSS 20B is actually the model that can do this. I've tried some other models. They either fail to do it, they stop at some point, and even GPT-OSS 20B, if it also should create test cases, it's basically just running around in circles for 20 minutes, and even that test is not really usable. So it's good at doing simple things. It's good at doing very specific tasks. But if it runs into a circle, it runs forever, basically. So some observation and consequences first about what's currently existing. So one thing, LLMs, especially local LLMs, get slower as the context grows, which means that you need to develop a feeling for the necessary context length and configure your context length accordingly. If it's too short, the LLM will forget your first non-system prompt messages, and then at some point it loses focus. It's a good idea to provide context paths. So if you know where the bug is located, in which files it needs to look, then you should provide that, because this saves a lot of tokens, a lot of context, and speeds up processing very much. Because otherwise it needs to scan your whole, walk your whole workspace, and basically uses already a lot of context with that. Keep conversations and tasks short, use the task context or summarize features. We've seen that already. And maybe use or create specialized agents. One important hint is provide the right set of tools. So don't fire up 5 MCP servers and throw all the tools in your prompt, because even the tool descriptions will eat up context. Still, local LLM is slower. So you need to, if you use it, you might end up changing your style of work, which means basically use your free time to parallelize. Like, for example, while it evaluates, write a prompt for the next feature, review code, review task context, or even go to lunch or meeting or grab a coffee, do some housework, whatever. And one hint, switching models or even switching the context length is expensive in Ollama, because it needs to reload the model every time you do this. So you should avoid that. Some things that we could customize or implement in the future, which we can think about, if something goes wrong, if the LLM runs in circles or something in that direction, it's imprecise, analyze the thinking process, analyze which tools it calls and why, and with which arguments, and maybe take that as a hint to refine prompts and to implement maybe even more robust tools, so tools that are not that exact, that can deal with imprecise input. Maybe even implement more specific tools. For example, if you're working on TypeScript files, maybe you can just auto format and lint it automatically on saving with the tool. So you basically don't end up, or the LLM doesn't end up correcting all these things. Sadly, all local LLMs fail in long-running tasks. I've tried to run it overnight for a few things, and that doesn't work. So we need to think about maybe programmatic workflows or something like maybe hierarchical agents. So maybe one agent that is developing a high-level plan and then delegates stuff to low-level agents that are doing one single thing with a small context. Something like that could be researched and tried. About the future, so models are getting better, as we have seen. So we never know what's next. Context stuff is getting better. We have this term of context engineering, MCP. We are thinking, or we are developing memory and so on. There are thoughts about doing the context compression in a smarter way and not just forgetting the first messages and so on. Hardware is getting better and cheaper. So as I said, I've used a 5-year-old processor, and also new technologies are emerging like Microsoft BitNet and so on. Some pointers that I've not covered: code completion. Actually, Ollama provides a special endpoint for in the middle completions. We could use that. Maybe that's faster, but at the same time, the problem is that Theia API doesn't support this kind of call right now, so we need to change the Theia API. There are, of course, things like local performance optimizations. There are tools with which you can quantize models or strip them, make them more performant, make them smaller. There is currently MLX support emerging even in Ollama, but not yet there, which means that the LLM on Apple hardware actually runs on the Apple own neural engine hardware. Currently, it only runs on the GPU, not the special AI CPU. And also, one thing that's a bit controversial is model fine-tuning. So you could train your model to be more specific for your task, but it's controversial whether that's worth it. And finally, just a hint, there is since a few weeks Ollama cloud model. So if you want the privacy, but not at the still want if you want the privacy, but still the performance and are willing to pay for that, you could use that, but the pricing is still not final yet there. Okay, that's all from my end.